Hello.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the call today. We are excited to have you here on this webinar. Just a request to everyone that please keep yourself on mute so that the call goes through. And we would be recording this session, and we would share the recording with each of the participants. And also, you can ask any questions in the chat box. We'll take them up during the course of the webinar today. All right, guys. Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, everyone, from wherever you guys are joining today. And let's get started with the session.
Good morning. Yeah. Continue.
Yes, perfect. So, Uh, as we were there in the webinar, so what I would be showcasing today is the inventory optimization through the Streamline solution. But before moving to the demonstration first, I would like to give a small intro about myself and about Anamind and Streamline, and then we'll get going towards the inventory optimization part. So I'm Sheetal Yadav. I take care of operations in Anamind. I basically take care of end-to-end solutions that we have, and I have a background in retail supply chain. I've done my master's in retail supply chain, and I've worked with different companies from different sectors, be it in retail, be it in consumer goods, pharmaceutical, oil, etc., etc., etc. So I've worked with quite a number of clients, quite a number of in different industry verticals. So that's where I come from. And now let's talk about Anamind. So when we talk about Anamind, we basically help companies improve the planning process. And what do I mean by improving the planning process is that we have different solutions in place, planning solution to help you improve your planning process. We also have planning services, and we have planning education. So when I say, when I talk about planning solutions, so we have a couple of different solutions for different clients' need, requirement. The capability and the depth of the feature in different solutions vary from process to process, from different software. So that's one area, and these are very powerful, very advanced solutions, and yet very easy to use and very user intuitive in terms of the different features that they have in terms of the process support that these solutions provide. So these are very capable and very advanced solution, I must say. Then comes the planning service. So we do help, we do provide our service. So since we have the right expertise and we have the solution in place, so we provide planning services. So a lot of companies have outsourced their planning need to us, and we have generated the reports, and we have consulted them and helped them in the planning service domain. Finally, the planning education. So we do a lot of webinars like the one which we are doing right now, and we also do a lot of training programs, especially in business planning and forecasting. We also do a lot of training programs, and we have courses for the finance side as well. So financial planning and analysis is another domain that we focus on. But guys, please note that as emphasized, we help companies improve the planning process. So planning is the key word. We focus only on planning. That's our major focus area. Now let me move towards the so let me move towards the yeah. So let me move towards the next section. So which is the streamline. So when I talk about Streamline, it's a very advanced solution. It can do demand planning, supply planning, inventory planning, MRP, and production planning. And further, it also can do revenue planning. So when we say it does revenue planning, it really helps you focus on the areas where how can we, you know, save our cost, how we can, increase our revenue by reducing the chances of potential loss of sale. So that's the key word that we would anyways would be discussing during our webinar today. But that's what the solution does beautifully. There have been lot of updates in this area. by the streamline solution, it has enhanced in its capabilities. That's where I would be focusing today on major 2 points. One is how can we optimize our inventory to reduce our potential loss, and how can we further optimize our inventory to free up our capital, to free up our cash, which is blocked in excess stock. So let's move forward. Let me give you a brief intro about Anamine. Brief intro about Anamine and Streamline. So when I say Streamline, we are their partners. Streamline is a solution from the company called as GMDH Streamline. They are their partners in India and APAC region. We have a long association with this company, and they have done a wonderful job in developing the solution. They keep on releasing new updates, and that's what we like about Streamline, the kind of power that they have in their features, the kind of dedication that the team has to improve the process and improve their system to support the client is extremely eye-opening. So it's really great. Okay, so let me talk about few of the key features, and then we'll move towards our main area, so which is inventory optimization. So the key features of Streamlines are that it provides accurate demand forecast. That's the number one factor for any kind of process to be improved in the planning domain. And we'll discuss how forecast is a key parameter for the inventory optimization. Then comes the forecast approval system. It's another great feature of streamline revenue planning. As I said, the projected inventory levels is definitely important to give us a visibility of future. The order planning, stock out alerts, and overstock alerts, inventory optimization. So these are few of the key features of streamline. And in fact, these features have been used or have, these these key features have basically helped the companies uh, reduce the excess stock. It has helped companies reduce the deficits, basically leading to a reduction in potential losses and increase in profitability. That's where we would honestly be focusing on. Let's So there are a lot of new people who are joining, logging in right now. So I'm kind of getting distracted here, but then let's continue. Okay. So yes, why do users love Streamline? It's a very easy to use feature system. In fact, I've worked personally in Streamline solution. It's really very user friendly. It gives you flexibility to use Excel, which we are quite comfortable with, and also provides you the best forecasting techniques. It has AI in the back end. It uses decision trees to help determine how much data needs to be taken for the generation of a very good model, forecasting model. It also uses a lot of other techniques like time series decomposition, and it automatically determines the various parameter to improve the forecast further, which essentially is a very key parameter to have a very good optimization in the inventory. So yes, rest of the features are really important as well. It automates a lot of our processes. It helps in it basically gives you flexibility to play around with the data in terms of shuffling the hierarchy on the fly. Building of the product tree, just like how we are very familiar with pivots in Excel. So it provides you that flexibility, and also it's very powerful in terms of processing of data and providing the performance for handling large data sets. Okay, so I'll move towards this section, which is the components of inventory. So let's first discuss about the components of inventory first, and then let's move towards how we can optimize the inventory. So when we talk about components of inventory, these are few of the important parameters which are part of any kind of inventory that we manage on a day-to-day basis or a month-to-month basis. The first one is current on-hand stock. So that is an inventory. So that's the first input for the component over here. Then the second part is the receivables. So how much is in transit? How much are we going to receive at a particular location? Be it the warehouse that we are managing, be it the store that we are managing, be it the depot that we are managing, or maybe distributor stock, etc. So what is the receivable? So that becomes an important criteria for managing the inventory. The third important factor is the back order or the open POs. So we also need to incorporate any back order in our data. We need to incorporate the different parameters of these. In fact, it's very much required, at least in these times when there is a lot of uncertainty uh, going around. We are not very sure of how the how the future demand is going to be shaping up. In such cases, this is one of the factor at least which we can utilize to have or manage our stocks optimally. The fourth section is the forecast. Mm, there is very few words to say why forecast is not important. Forecast is very much essential in all the businesses, barring a few, which could be B2B segments. So that I'll not touch upon. But our main focus is uh, forecast is an important criteria for the inventory. How can we manage the inventory if we do not know what is going to be our future? How much reliable that forecast is. So that's also another very important criteria which we would anyways be discussing when we move to the next part in this section. Uh, then it's the safety stock. Safety stock is really required. The reason is that there are longer lead times. There are a lot of different components that can go wrong when the lead times are high. There could be a dependence on the production, which and there could be certain errors, in the production facility while producing the product or manufacturing the product. There could be a lot of different areas as well which are dependent. For example, raw material availability. So all that leads to managing the safety stock. And also, if the products have a shelf life, then shelf life becomes a very important component in our in managing the inventory. So shelf life, we would not be touching it so much detail, but I just wanted to jot down at least few of the important components which are part of my inventory. When we talk about safety stock, so safety stock is basically dependent on three parameters. So the first one is the service level. Uh, the reason behind having a safety stock is to have a good service level in place, to be able to provide to our customers on an ongoing basis without any disruption. That's why having a safety stock is really important. Safety stock, and usually in good practices, is really dependent on our service level. And it's also in a lot of cases dependent on the forward cover. So when we have a good visibility of our forecast of our forward demand, then we can easily take into account the forward cover. In certain cases, when the lead times are really high, when the lead times are long, then also it becomes really important to look at our forward horizon as to how much lead time is there. Is it 2 months? Is it 3 months? What exactly is that horizon? That will determine the safety stock again. The third important piece is the model error. Say, for example, if we are planning for an item, if we are projecting for, and using a specific technique, and that specific technique might never be 100% accurate. And in those cases, we need to determine what is that model error, what is the uncertainty, we can call it that way. What is that uncertainty within the particular model or within the particular data set? That uncertainty can invariably become an important parameter to decide on the safety stock. If our uncertainty is high, if the model error is high, then it's directly proportional uh, to the safety stock. If one parameter is high, then our safety stock would also be high. And the much better our forecast model, the lesser basically depend, the lesser the amount of safety stock that we would be keeping, because we are very sure of what is going to be our demand, because the model is say 90% accurate. In those cases, it, it's it's okay not to have very large inventory in place, and it would be fine if we can just work around with the lesser amount of data. Yes, the main important criteria in even in safety stock is our forecast. The important parameter from where our planning starts is forecast. So guys, we need to have a process in place. We need to use a system which can generate accurate forecast. That's the basic premises of managing. That's basically the first step of optimizing our inventory. So let's not talk about the second parameter is the replenishment strategy. So what are the kind of strategies that we should use for managing our inventory? And before even moving towards the replenishment strategy, let's first discuss on the classification of items, because there could be there are cases where sometimes the inventory is we would certain items in which we would have a lot of items which are falling in a C class, and there could be certain items which are falling in B class. And in certain cases, the items would be falling in A class. So we need to have a strategy in place which focuses on these areas. So uh, let's first decide how can we classify the items first. So there are different techniques available to classify the item. The very common and very frequently used is the total consumption based classification, which is as we know it as ABC classification. We can do it an 80-15-5 rule. The items which are contributing to 80% of our total consumption would become an A item. These could be very high selling item, and in such cases, usually these are high revenue generating items. So when we look at our product lines, the management is more interested in planning or focusing on the items which generate more value. So we need to give certain more emphasis to managing the A class item, because if these items go wrong, uh, our sales would invariably be impacted by huge margin, right? So this is one way of classifying the inventory. The second one way is the XYZ classification, or which is also known as high unit cost method, and in or high medium low cost method. I'm sorry. And in this case, basically we are looking at the cost of the item. Since we are managing the inventory, we need to also give more emphasis on the items which have very high cost compared to items which have very low cost. So that is a very much important criteria. Again, please note that this is unit cost. This is not the total cost that we are talking about. So that's why it's slightly different than ABC classification. A lot of companies do use it, especially when we are building big equipments which are very high cost driven items. The third classification, which we have seen quite frequently in the retail sector, is the movement of inventory method, or basically the fast moving, slow moving, non moving inventory. We tend to classify the items based on these strategies. uh, the fast moving inventory, basically it's the run rate that is determined, and the items which have a very high run rate in a given period of time, those will be classified under fast moving, and then the slow moving and the non moving. So as a company, we can decide the range of, or basically the cutoff limits for these different segments, and then give a much more emphasis. So fast moving inventory, we can have a periodic replenishments, or we can or if the item is really critical, we can have a min max kind of strategy in place, and we'll discuss these strategies as well. But just wanted to give you a gist of different ways of classification. You can decide based on your product lines, based on your industry, which of these classification would suit your products the best, and then we can focus on the replenishment part or the optimization part. The fourth factor is the VED analysis, where we do focus on the items which are vital, then the items which are essential, and then the third one is desirable. So definitely the most important factor that, or the more emphasis that we give on in this classification, is the items which are very vital, without which uh, you know eh, without which it will not do. So for example, if we have a lot of if we are manufacturing a product and a particular screw or a particular nail is really important to complete the product, that becomes the vital item uh, rather than a desirable one, because without this the item is not complete. And even though it's a very small value item, even though it has a very small cost, very low cost, it becomes very, very vital, and we need to manage them accordingly, because if that does not happen, maybe our production would also stop. So that's why this kind of analysis is really required, especially in companies which are dealing with a lot of different items, and few of them becomes very critical for the process. The last one is the sources of supply. So depending on where we are sourcing our product, are we sourcing it from our local suppliers or from national suppliers, or are we importing the product? Depending on these three items, these three parameters, we classify our products. So products which are imported, we would have a different kind of strategy in place, because they have longer lead time. The items which are locally supplied, or which can be which have national suppliers, would have different kind of strategy. Items which have local suppliers would have very less variability or very less deviation in the uh, in the lead times, compared to items which we are importing, or which have national supplier dependency. I, I hope this is uh, this is making sense, because if you're not very clear on the kind of classification that we use, the next step becomes kind of irrelevant. This step, the item classification steps, will help you determine how to look at your inventory, how can we then have different strategies in place to optimize them better. Okay, so now comes the replenishment part. So there are usually, majorly in industry, there are these two different strategies that we use. One is periodic, and then the other one is min-max rule. Uh, both have certain advantages and disadvantages, and that's why item classification becomes much more important. So when we look at periodic replenishment, the advantage is over here is that we can group the items on a certain periodic basis. Um, so we can specify, or we can we can group the items, because we are ordering from a particular supplier on a periodic basis. So that gives us much more flexibility to uh, look at the holistic order that we are getting. However, it becomes kind of the only disadvantage that I would say over here for this kind of strategy is that uh, periodic, so we'll have to wait for the month to arrive, for the next month to arrive, or maybe next week to arrive, before generating the replenishment order in such cases. uh, so that's a disadvantage. So even though we would be very low with the inventory, it might not be really accurate, or because we would have to wait for the entire week to get over to generate the order. However, that's not the case in MinMax. So in MinMax, the system automatically looks at the inventory on a regular basis, and then whenever the stock reaches a reorder point, it will generate the order. And the only disadvantage it has is, because the orders would be generated in very small volume on a period on a day-to-day basis, it will not be clubbing the orders together, and that would lead to a higher processing cost, etc. So this is what I really wanted to focus essentially the first part of my segment. Let's now move towards the uh, system demo. I'm sure a lot of people are waiting for the demo as well. So this is the streamline system. And when we look at the streamline system, it's this is the demand planning screen. This is the demand plan section. So when we look at the demand plan, this part is really critical. This part is really important because if our forecast is not correct, if our demand plan is not correct, then inventory optimization, forget it. We should not even talk about it. So let's first talk about the demand plan or the forecast part over here. And when we look at the forecast is not always looked at in terms of SKU by SKU basis. It's really important that we group the items. We all look at the graphical presentation. We look at the numbers as well. So that's the advantage that system like these have, that we can look at each of these categories graphically as well as numerically, which is slightly not very possible. It's really not possible when we look at Excel kind of presentation. So that's the huge advantage that we have over here. So in this section that we see over here, I've selected a multi-location to work on inventory optimization demo. In this case, we have a particular distribution center, and this distribution center is supplying different locations, or we can call them as warehouse. So that's how we have built this presentation. And when we look at the product hierarchy over here, so we have a company which is selling a consumer good. We have a company which is into fashion, food and beverage, and pharmaceutical. So this is the product classification that we call it as. So we classify the product based on their different categories that it's falling into. We classify them then based on different stocks. Sorry, based on the different item code, and or then on the based on location. So I have by item classification first, where I'm looking at the item first and then the location. So in this case, I've selected a particular item which is H2510 nails in WH San Francisco, and there is another item in place over here. For example, when we look at electronics, so this has a different kind of pattern over here. So whenever I'm selecting each of these items, the data set would change accordingly. And that's the beauty of the system, that we can drill down at the lower level, and then we can automatically look at how the past historical data has been uh, uh, is looking like, and then what are the different parameters that we can extract from here. So when I have selected this particular item, I can see that this is my actual sale. The gray color line represents my actual sale. The blue color line is the model fitment. So Streamline system uses an automatic selection approach where the models are selected automatically. As I said, the blue color line is uh, is selected through the decision tree, which is running in the backend, which is trying to determine what is the period, what's the horizon which would give me better pattern. So it's selecting that in the backend automatically, and then it's going through all the different lists of models that are available to generate a best fit model. So the red color line that you see over here is the model projection in the future. So the blue color line is the model fitment in the history. This is the future projection. So when we look at this number, or say when we go to the model section over here, it gives me it gives me basically the different coefficients. So these are seasonal coefficients. This is slope coefficient, the level coefficient, etc. Then we also have it's something called a safety stock standard deviation. So this is the error that we see. This is the model MAPE that we see. This is the seasonality test that it has done. So what do I mean by uh, these options that we see over here? So it tells me what is the model MAPE, what is the error that we are getting by using this model in the history, in the backend. So that's what these models are capable of. So tomorrow when I have a new data coming in, it will further optimize the model, and then it will further optimize the forecast as well going forward in time. And this model may would change depending on the new data that has come in, depending on the kind of model that has been selected, and then automatically it becomes an important factor to determine how much safety stock should we maintain. I'll not get into the calculation of safety stock. My main agenda is to give you a different ideas as to how you can look at your inventory and how can you further optimize it and manage it. So in this case, we have the actual sales, we have the statistical forecast, we also have an option of forecast override. In case we have the information from the market, especially when things are changing so drastically these days, we have the information from the market that in this particular month, maybe we are not going to uh, maybe are not going to sell so much. Maybe we are going to sell only 5,000 rather than 10,000. So the moment I'm going to click on enter, you would notice that the revenue would change, and the revenue is dependent on the average selling price. So based on my average selling price, my revenue is changing. I can also, on the second hand, I can change the revenue. I can say I want to do 65,000 or so much. So it will automatically change the forecast override in units. So I see there are certain questions, I guess. I believe what you guys can do, if you have any questions, please write them down on the chat box and we'll take them up at the end of the session. All right. Okay, so we can, as I was at the revenue part, so we can look at the revenue projections of this data set over here. We can change the revenue if we want. We can change the revenue, and that would get changed. We can change the forecast overrides. We can say we are going to now do 1,500, depending on what the information that we have got from the market. Or we can change the average selling price. In this case, I can change it to 12, and automatically that would be incorporated. So the moment we are making a change in our forecast in terms of unit, our revenue is also getting generated. So this is what I mean by revenue projections, or how the revenue is also getting projected from the system. So let's keep that part aside because our focus today is on inventory optimization. So let's now look at the inventory. And when we look at the inventory, this is the first piece that I see over here, which is on-hand inventory. It tells me that the end of this particular month, we have an inventory of 4,500. And this is a very important deciding factor over here, uh, because this determines how much would be our for future inventory projections, how much more do we have to order to be able to meet the forward requirement, depending on definitely our lead times. So if the lead times are higher, and also depending on my stocking strategy. So that's critical. So when we look at the on-hand inventory over here, there are other useful use of this on-hand inventory over here. So when we look at the on-hand inventory, maybe on a regular basis for this particular item, I noticed that in the month of November and December, there was no sale. And currently I've not uploaded the on-hand amount, but say in case we had uploaded on-hand amount, and maybe we did not have enough stock to be able to supply during these 2 months, and that is a very possible reason because the sales are quite good when we look at the data historically. So maybe there were certain stock out days, and you would notice the moment I'm going to look, change my stock out days, usually this part system will automatically generate, it will automatically identify when we put the on hand amount. But since we have not put that, I want to show it to you that the moment I'm going to change the stock out days, you will notice that the forecast for the month of November, which currently is 4,786, it would change. So now it has increased to 6,174. So it's automatically determining and eliminating these impacts of these stockout events that had happened in the past. And this is really essential that we correct these factors because this will help us in getting much more accurate forecast. And you had seen it right now itself. There's a jump in the forecast by 2,000 units. That's a very significant number when we are looking at managing our inventory. Reducing or not having 2,000 inventories in place maybe in certain businesses it might have a very drastic impact on the revenue. So we might lose out on our sales, and that could be one of the factors for determining what could be the potential loss that we would have. So this could be one of the factors. So maybe in this case we had lost our sales by 2000 unit, and when we multiply that a with an average sales price of 10 or 11, it 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 becomes quite a big number. It becomes 20,000. So $20,000, then it's a very significant number to look at. So I'll focus first on this section, which is on-hand inventory. And when we look at on-hand inventory, you will notice that there are these red color icons. There are these green color number over here. And what do I mean by what do these numbers represent? When we look at WH002 WH San Francisco, and it is that it it's 18,956. That means it's short. We are going to lose out on sales by, or on our margin, not on sales, on our margin by this much number. So 18,956, because do not have enough stock to manage our forecast, manage our future demand. In this case, it's pretty much clear as well. Uh, okay. So there is a difference of about 2,000 units that we do not have, at the moment, and that is going to lose out. That is going to make us lose the revenue. This is the potential loss that we are going to have in this particular area by 2,000 units. So, guys, it's really important that we start measuring the potential losses. Sometimes it becomes very difficult to measure it, but systems like these help you in understanding these factors over here. I think I have one question. Let me just have a look at it. Okay, wanted to know, is there any tool in this software which will predict risk factor for converting input into nominal? Okay, so yes, we can do an ABC classification over here. I think I should have taken that section over here. So when we look at the settings over here, so it gives us the uh, option to manage our inventory based on ABC classification, and we can determine the basis for this classification. Do we want to do it basis the units sold, basis the revenue, or basis the gross profit, cost of goods sold, or the inventory value? We can determine what should be our classification criteria. In this case, I've selected revenue-based classification, which is also the conventional ABC classification, where we can classify the items. And then you can determine as an organization what would be the contribution for A class item, B class item, and C class item. In this case, it's 70, 20, 10, but then again depends on company to company uh, what factor you would want to emphasize on. This part it automatically does on its own. The moment say I am going to select a unit sold, it will automatically have a different kind of classification or ABC analysis in place. So that's the beauty of the system, that it does this part automatically. And let's look at the ABC classification. Let me activate it. And so now it is classified that in A class we have consumer goods and fashion electronic. In B class we have fashion. In C class, there, as expected, majority of the items would fall over here, which would not contribute to the 70%, or say they are not contributing to good 90% of our revenue. When I look at A class, it's really easy. Okay, so this is the forecast that I have over here, and in this case, it becomes even more critical. So we are going to have, foresee, or we are going to see a potential loss in sale for A class item by 21,100,000. Sorry, so it's when we look at in Indian currency, it would be 2.19 CR, and that's a big number to look at. And when we look at C class item, it's showing me that we are sitting on an excess stock of, the green color represents an excess inventory. it shows me that we are currently sitting on an inventory of about 6 6 CR, which is very, very huge. So this is the amount of capital that we have blocked in our inventory, which we can release, which we can manage, and we will also talk about how we can manage that part in our data set. So yes, so this is this is where the potential loss and the block of cash in inventory we need to look at more carefully. But when I go to the inventory module, I would want to get into the details of each and every item, how the inventory is getting classified. And in this case, I see that there are different products. So I have a particular product which is getting sold, or which is getting sold in 2 to 3 different locations. And when we look at that, we see that there's certain on-hand amount. The on-hand amount is different. And for the same product in different locations, the on-hand amount in one case is 3,800, in one case it's 3,900. And they both are 21 days of supply. But in one case it is green, one case it is red. Red indicating that we are going to have a potential loss of sale because of stock out. Green indicating that we have sufficient stock. And the reason behind this is that the even though the inventory is close to each other, the difference over here comes from the forecast, because we need to look at forward period. We need to look at how much sale is going to happen. The same inventory can have two different meaning for two different locations, which have different kind of data series. So that's one area. The second area is to shipment. So how much do we have to ship to our customer? These could be the back orders. These could be the open PUs that we have, which we need to basically transfer. So that comes into to receive. Uh, sorry, to shipment. In to receive, what we can see over here, these are the arrivals in place. So how much is it going to arrive at different point in time? These could be the existing orders that we would have placed to the distributor to get the product at this location. So these are the in transit stock. Then comes the important factor, which is the lead time. And the lead time could be different in this for different items. Say, in this case, if I make it 60 days, you would notice that this would again turn into red, indicating, okay, so still we have sufficient stock. Maybe let me make it 75 or maybe 120. Maybe this has way too much inventory. Yes, that's what we can see. So we have quite a amount of inventory in place for this particular item. Okay, so even 120 days of lead time is fairly okay. Still, it's going to be a huge excess amount in place that we see. Maybe let me make it 365. And when I do make it 1 year, we can see that it has now turned to red, indicating that we would have a potential loss of sale because our lead times are very high. And that's how this model works. It's pretty dynamic in that perspective, that it gives you instant visibility whether you have a shortage, whether you have an excess stock, or by how much unit do you have an excess stock. So in this over here, it tells you accurately how much it would be your excess stock, what would be the stock out that you would be facing in such situations, by how much. Okay, so let's move to the second part, which is order cycle. So this becomes critical. This would determine what would be the kind of strategy that we need to maintain. So I've gone to the settings part over here, and when I open that box, it asks me what would be the replenishment strategy. Do we want to have a periodic basis replenishment strategy, which means the order would be generated once a month or twice a month, or maybe 3 times a month? Or maybe we would want to look at the min-max strategy, where it would automatically determine what would be the reorder point, uh, what would be the maximum amount of inventory that we can keep, what would be the minimum amount of inventory that we could keep. These are the two important criteria. As I said, for A class item, maybe we can have one of these strategies in place. For C class item, I would definitely recommend having a min-max kind of strategy where we can specify certain amount of units for a forecast, because those are usually intermittent data series. Those are usually low volume products. So we can have a min-max strategy in place, indicating that when the inventory goes below, say, 5 units, we would generate a order for a replenishment order. When we look at safety stock, this is very critical. As I said, we want to manage our safety stock basis our lead service level, and service level and definitely lead time is incorporated. The service level is a factor of lead time over here. In this case, when we want to manage is based our inventory based on 98% of service level. That means that we want to uh, service our customer 98% of the time out of 100. So whenever this customer walks into our particular facility, walks to us asking for a specific product, we should be able to supply the product 98% of the time. So different companies have different classification basis. We were recently, in fact, just a couple of days back, I was having a discussion with one of the client, and they want to have the strategy of 90% and not 98%. So that is absolutely fine. Okay, I'm just looking at one of the questions that I have over here. There would be hundreds of items under each panels category. How does one manage all this micromanagement on daily basis? What are some outlier identification reports or processes or mass correction accordingly? So yes, you are absolutely right that there would be hundreds of items under each panels category. How does one manage all this micromanagement on a daily basis? Usually we do, as a planner, we need to look at classifying the product, and that's the main area. Where should we focus more on? That should be our objective. Should we look at all the items one by one? Is it really important to have a look at all the items on on a daily basis? I don't think so. Focus on A class item first. Find out which classification would be best for you, and then specify, okay, which are those vital, critical, or the items which you would want to manage on a regular basis, and then which are the items which you would want to say have a look at on a monthly basis or bi-monthly basis, or in 15 days or so. You do not have to manage them on a daily basis, and that's why the system does ABC classification. It will help you in uh, looking at focusing on those items which are very critical. In terms of what are the outlier identification processes and mass corrections. So one of the outlier correction process that I had shown during the session was the stockouts that we see over here. So this is also an outlier if you look at from the business angle. We also have an outlier correction approach. Say, for example, if we had run a promotion, because of that promotion, the sales went high. And in those cases, we can use a promotion option over here. We can mark specific time periods as promotion for which channel, for which location, for which item we had run the promotion, what was the start date, what's the end date. And in case we have a plans to do run the promotion again in future, maybe if, in past we had run a 30% discount promotion. Now we want to run a promotion of 10%. So we can have different discount percentages in such cases, and system is automatically going to determine what was the impact of 30% discount promotion and what would be the impact of 10% discount promotion in the in future. So that's another way of event or outlier modeling. There are, when we are talking about event and when we are talking about discount, we can also look at the sales price over here. So the system is quite capable in the backend. So if we have, say, changing price in the system, it will take into account the impact of these changing price on the sale automatically, and then automatically adjust the forecast in future if we provide a changing price in the future as well. So that's another thing. In certain cases, there are certain outliers. The black color dot that you see over here, these are automatically detected by the outlier by the system, and we can automatically through the when we are uploading the data, we can have them uploaded. We can correct the outliers on a one-shot basis automatically through the uh, uh, data upload process. I hope that answered your question at least slightly. We can get on a different call to discuss more on the outlier part, but as our focus is today is more on the inventory optimization part. Okay, so I think yes, we were over here. So in the presentation, we discussed what should be our service level. That becomes an important criteria for safety stock. The second option is the demand of future. A lot of companies do have the inventory norms or the forward cover norm. Okay, so we want to have a cover of 30 days, we want to have a cover of 60 days. In such cases, that becomes it becomes an important factor to take that into account as well. So we can have a strategy which incorporates both, or we can have only one strategy which focuses on service level, because we want to service our customer better, we want to improve our service level. If that is your objective as a business, then select whichever is option is available to you. So when I select say both of these options, you would notice that the safety stock over here would change. And let me do that. And now you would notice that the safety stock is different for different items. It has increased because now I have two factor for managing our safety stock to determine our safety stock. Then comes the purchase price and the final quantity. But just before moving towards final quantity, I want to show you the different replenishment parameters that we have. So we do have lead time, we do have variance in lead time. Say, for example, if we get a product from a supplier in 10 days and there is a variability in the supply over here by 2 to 3 days, then we can incorporate that variance into account, and that will have a direct impact on the amount that we would be ordering. Then when we look at min lot and max lot, I'm sure everyone of us are aware of what do these terms indicate. Wanted to emphasize one part over here, that in this case, system will automatically calculate that. So unlike Excel, it's quite intuitive. It would say uh, it would be able to incorporate that feature automatically. We can do rounding, say after minimum lot, and how much units can be extra order. So that is one thing. A lot of retail companies have certain stock on display, so we can manage that through the display quantity over here. Shelf life is also important in case the products are not, the products have a lower shelf life, then it's really critical to incorporate that, especially in food industry. That's very important. Um, then there are certain constraints that we can add in, like group ID or group minimum quantity, and then similarly the container capacity management, which comes in this section. But just before, even moving towards that, we can say show you the minimum lot amount over here. In this case, say we, from the supplier, we can order only 15,000 as the minimum lot. You will notice that the moment I'm going to click enter, this quantity, this order quantity would change to 15,000. It's very quick and easy process to do that. I'm doing it right on the system. We can definitely export these parameter to Excel and make those changes in Excel and then import back in the system. That's also very easy to do that. So it uses the best of both worlds. It uses the flexibility of Excel and also has a system in place to automate all the supply management part first. So let's now discuss that. Okay, based on the periodic replenishment strategy, this is the order that we have generated. Now, since we have our warehouse is getting supplied from the DC, we can have a look at how we are managing the inventory at the DC, and we can also look at the fill rate of the DC in case we would want to manage that fill rate. So when we open the fill rate, which is I guess I'm missing out on certain. Yeah, so we have the DC fill rate activated. So we can have a look at the DC fill rate. We can also look at how much excess are we ordering because of the different constraints that we have put in the system. So it gives me that information. And it also tells me what is the DC fill rate. In this case, there are certain items which would have low fill rate because the distributor is not carrying enough stock. And in such cases, such instances, maybe we can make use of the shuffling of inventory. So shuffling of inventory becomes very important that we can enable the inter-store optimization. And when we do that, what it will do, it will automatically shuffle the stock from a location which is very high stock to a location which has low stock. In this case, uh, I'm going I'm going to shuffle the stock from this location. So this is the location from where I'm going to shuffle the stock, and this has an excess inventory as it's represented in dark green color. It has an excess inventory of about 62,000. So this is one way of avoiding liquidation. We can in fact rebalance our inventories by moving from a location which is very high stock to a location which has not sufficient stock. So this is where the system is going to give me a report indicating from where I can shuffle the stock and how much quantity can I shuffle out of the total. So that's also possible. In this case, that what we can do is we can tell the system the distance between the different locations. The cost also becomes an important factor based on the distance. If it's a low value item, then possibly we might want to just liquidate it because the cost of moving that product becomes quite high. There are several factors that we need to consider, and then that we can incorporate in the settings part during the project creation process. Okay, I'm going to just turn on this feature which is container grouping so that I can show you that section over here. So now I'm also managing the stock at the distribution center. So in this case, we are managing our inventory at two levels, not just at one level. That is very critical that we manage our inventory at different levels. That essentially helps us in streamlining the entire process. So the demand from one process becomes the input to sorry, the demand of one process becomes an input to another section, and the output of, say for example, the for the warehouse becomes an input to the distribution center. So that's where it is really useful of streamlining the process. In this case, we are managing the inventories. So we have got the orders. We have certain different minimum lots. We have different lead times over here. We have different receivables. We have different service levels that we can manage. And maybe at the DC level, we would want to have a min-max kind of approach. Maybe we can have that instead of having a periodic replenishment. We can have a min-max strategy because in this case we have only one, or my orders are getting uh, are going to only one location, which is my production facilities. The order that we are getting from our distribution center becomes an input to my production facility, so I can have a min-max kind of approach as well, so that my items are quickly replenished at my warehouse. In such cases, when we do that, we can get a option. The system automatically updates the reorder point and the max inventory. How much max can we keep? What we can also do is we can, okay, let me see. Yeah, yeah. So what we can also do is we can tell the system to explain the calculation on what basis the system is the calculating the order. And over here you can in detail have a look at what is the demand that you're looking at each of these different months. What's the other forecast, what's the sub-period consumption, what is the write-offs, so what is the inventory in transit, the planned order arrivals, etc. The system is going to automatically calculate that inventory levels and the projected inventory levels and the planned orders. How much do we need to finally order to be able to meet the requirement? And this is quite comprehensive. It goes in the future as well. So I can also activate the demand, my projected inventory levels over here. And when I do that, I can notice that system is not just giving me the picture for the current month. It is also telling me the projections of future. And over here, you can notice that initially there are certain items which are red. There are certain items which are green or slight green. And as the time goes on, this is changing to white, indicating that these stocks are rebalancing as the time progresses. It is very critical that the system is trying to optimize our inventory in a way that is not going to lead us to an overstocking position, and it is also not going to lead us to an understocking position. So in this case, it's going to not order. If you just look at this particular item which has lots of green, it tells me that we have more than sufficient stock, so it's not going to generate any order for this particular item. So this is a DC. So over here we have quite enough stock, and after a certain point, it's just fixing on a certain level based on the demand which is coming from different locations. So it's not going to generate order till the time we our stock comes to a level where we can manage our inventory well, or in certain cases it could be we can use the stock to shuffle and send it to those locations where there is an excess amount. So there are different ways and strategies in place in which we can optimize our inventory further, rebalance our stocks further so that our inventory is aligned properly. We are in much better control, and that's what it kind of indicates over here. We also have certain dashboards over here. Maybe I need to open a better dashboard just to show you. Yeah, in this case, we can also look at the movement. When we start using the system, we can also start looking at how the inventory is moving, how whether these expected stockouts are increasing or reducing, or whether the turnover is improving or reducing, or whether the annual revenue is increasing or decreasing. And there could be a lot of other settings that we can turn on, and just have a look at this dashboard, this KPI dashboard first, and then move to the rest of the section so that we are in better control. So that is beyond the scope of topic today. This is a question which is how quality rejections are calculated over here. Uh, that part we will have to take it separately on a different session because we are out of time over here. Possibly we'll get in touch with you separately to discuss on these points. We would definitely be sharing the recording of the session today with everyone, and that's forgiven for today. Do you have any other question from this session? If you have, I see there's one hand which is raised. And now you guys can unmute yourself. You can possibly.
Hi Sheetal, this is Perizami. Can you hear me?
Yes, Perizami, I can hear you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for this session. And I would like to understand how this commercials work. Okay, it's a good tool, but I would like to understand the commercial part, how it works.
It's very sweet commercial system. We can take it up on a different on a separate call. Shall I call you after say in an
Yeah.
half
No,
an
I
hour?
just wanted to understand, like, I don't want to understand the value point of view. Like, is it a one-time procurement or something like, as it sort of sharing over a model? What sort of model it was?
Yeah, it's a subscription based model.
Subscription based. Okay, thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Jatinder Bedi, yes, could we get a demo specially for our company, more so for raw material management and creating a dashboard? Yes, we can do that. Let me make a note of it so that I can reach out to you separately, or you can write us to at either hello@anamine.com, or you can write directly to me at sheetal@anamine.com so that we can get in touch and take the session over there.
You said sheetal@anamine.com?
Yes, it's SHEETAL.
Yeah.
Let me write it.
Double E. Yeah.
Yes, I'm just writing it down in the chat box for everyone.
Fine.
Great, great. Any other question from anyone else will close the session. I hope the discussion was useful to you guys.
Yep. Sheetal, one more doubt from my side.
Yeah.
How does this, interact with SAP, the existing ERP, and what sort of, the integration is available? this particular
So
one?
yes, we can have different integrations in place. Say, for example, I want to edit these settings. Sorry. So there are certain built-in connections, data sources in place. So we can have a direct connection to the database, or there are certain standard connectors available as well. In case that is not available, we can use the SQL to connect with your database, or we can have a direct spreadsheet connection, which is also very easy to do. It's not a very tough job. We can manage from that as well. A lot of companies do use that process as well, but
So,
we
so
have standard connectors.
this requires some customization, initial customization things, which will be taken care of by this particular team.
The IT, yes, the IT would be taking care of that. Okay. Okay, guys, I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining with me today on this important section. It was lovely talking to you all, and we will definitely get in touch with you maybe early next week, and then we'll take it from here in case you have any other question, and we will also be sharing the recording of the session. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Take care, and also a good weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you.